My son left me at the train station with no money while he celebrated a weekend getaway I had unknowingly paid for. And the whole time he smiled, he had no idea I still controlled the one thing he thought he had stolen. Travis always knew how to make things sound like they were for my own good. "Just a little weekend escape, Mama," he said. "We booked you a trip to the mountains. No stress, no noise. Just peace and relaxation." It was presented as a gift. He said he and his wife, Melissa, wanted to give me a break. He said I deserved it after everything I had done for the family. That was the first red flag. Travis hadn't told me where I was going exactly, just that it would be nice. I didn't ask too many questions. "Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing." I didn't want to seem ungrateful, but when we pulled into that train station, and he handed me a one-way ticket and a paper envelope with 2 20s and a folded schedule inside, something in my chest tightened. "You'll love it," he said, smiling like it was a favor. "Melissa booked the Airbnb herself. Just get off at the last stop. Someone will be. They're waiting." The train wasn't due for another hour. It was cold. The wind kept pushing through my coat. I stood on the platform watching Travis walk back to his car, his phone already to his ear, laughing at something. He didn't look back. When I sat down on a metal bench, I opened the envelope again. 2 $20 bills, 1 printed itinerary for some countryside retreat, and no return ticket, no contact, no cell phone charger, no real explanation. Melissa had hugged me before we left, said she hoped I'd find clarity on this trip. She used that word like I was confused. I wasn't. I sat at that station for a while, holding my purse tight and pretending not to notice how empty everything felt. I called Travis. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Same. I tried Melissa. Blocked. I walked back to the ticket counter, but the man behind the glass said the destination on my ticket wasn't staffed. I asked if he could help me contact the number on the itinerary. He glanced at it and shook his head. No phone numbers, just an address. It wasn't a wellness retreat. It wasn't even a hotel. It was a shared rental with no return transportation. Arranged. They sent me off like luggage. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I just walked out of that station, coat zipped up to my chin, and flagged down a taxi. I didn't know where I was going yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't staying gone. I used my debit card to pay the driver, and the moment I did, I checked my banking app. My checking account had $48.06. My savings had been drained. The joint, account Travis and I had opened years ago, empty. I hadn't touched that money in months, but someone had. And it wasn't me. I took a bus from the next town back to my city. 3 hours, cold, no food. I sat with my coat buttoned to the top and my hands folded in my lap. People talked around me. A woman beside me offered me a pack of crackers. I took it, but I didn't eat. I was thinking. By the time I made it back to my neighborhood, it was already dark. I didn't go home, because I no longer had a home. Travis had changed the locks 2 weeks ago. He claimed it was because the keypads were malfunctioning. But now I saw it for what it was. He had no intention of letting me come back. Instead, I went to the one place I knew was still mine, my storage unit. That unit held more than furniture. Inside, I kept copies of every important document, just in case. Tax forms, deeds, birth certificates, legal correspondence, and tucked between a file labeled Utilities and one labeled Medical, there it was, the folder marked Revocable Living Trust, Dolores Hampton, still signed, still valid, and still in my name. They didn't know I never removed myself from the trust. They didn't know that, despite all the smiling manipulation, I never actually gave Travis full access to anything that mattered. He could empty the joint account, but he couldn't touch the trust. He thought I had nothing left. He had no idea I was still in control. I called my lawyer from a borrowed phone at the corner pharmacy. Monica Reeves answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Hampton," she said, cautious. "Is everything all right?" "No," I said, steady. "But I still have what matters. I need to see you, tomorrow morning." She paused. "Bring everything." "And Dolores?" "Yes." "I never removed you from my client list." The next morning, I walked into Monica's office with my trust documents, my notes, and a statement printout showing the empty joint account. "I want to revoke anything he has. I want to close every door he thinks is open." Monica didn't blink. "Let's start with a power of attorney revocation. Then we'll contact the property registrar. If he's moved anything into his name, we'll challenge it." We worked for hours. I provided her with everything. Documents, dates, every withdrawal I didn't authorize. The more I spoke, the quieter she got. Not because she didn't believe me, but because she saw what I saw. A son who played the long game of betrayal. She reached for her keyboard and began drafting. "I'm also filing an emergency freeze on all family-linked accounts," she said. "He thinks he won. But we still have your signature. That's the trap." And it was, because the one thing Travis never knew I controlled was the signature that made everything real. The account names, the ownership documents, the legal transfers. Every single one required my approval, and I had never given it. They thought they were celebrating. They had no idea what was coming. Monica and I didn't waste time. That morning in her office, I signed 3 revocation forms. One for the power of attorney Travis had manipulated me into years ago. Another for the healthcare proxy he likely planned to use if I became a problem. And the last for the old joint, financial structure we once shared. "You're still competent," Monica said plainly. "And everything he's done, freezing your accounts, draining joint funds, changing locks, none of it stands once we challenge it with the right documentation." She didn't need to tell me that. I already knew. That's why I kept the original trust in my storage unit. I never trusted digital files. And as it turned out, that paper trail was what saved me. By noon, we were at the notary's office. Monica's assistant, Janet, served as witness. I signed every document slowly, making sure my hand was steady, every letter clear. "This isn't just cleanup," I told Monica as we sat across from each other. He thought he boxed me out. "But I'm walking back in. I want the house, I want the funds, and I want them to feel it." Monica nodded without smiling. "Then we'll file for a financial injunction today and begin property reclamation. We'll also notify the county assessor's office. If he tried to transfer title behind your back, it's going to be flagged." I didn't respond. I just tapped the table gently with my finger and said, "And make sure every notice has my name in bold. I want them to read it when they open the envelope." That afternoon, Monica had her paralegal pull the latest title reports on the house. Within 20 minutes, the file arrived by email. Travis hadn't transferred the title. He couldn't. The property was still in a living trust, and I was the sole trustee. He didn't even realize the house he locked me out of was never his to begin with. The next day, Monica filed the injunction in probate court. I went with her. Not because I needed to be there, but because I wanted to watch the clerk stamp the file. I wanted to hear the thump of that ink against the paper. It was real now. From there, we drove to my old neighborhood. I didn't walk up to the house. I stood at the end of the block, far enough that Travis or Melissa wouldn't notice, but close enough to see their SUV parked in the driveway. New rims. Personalized plate. Probably bought with my money. Monica handed me a copy of the official motion. "Once this is processed," she said, "they'll receive a court-mandated notice of unauthorized occupancy. You want a formal eviction process?" I looked toward the house. It had my roses out front, my curtains still in the living room. But someone else's energy now. "Yes," I said. "No negotiation. Just procedure." Monica didn't ask questions. We didn't have to wait long. 5 days later, Travis received a hand-delivered envelope from a county officer. I wasn't there when it happened, but Monica's process server sent a short report. He answered the door in joggers and a tank top, looked confused at first, then annoyed, then pale. Melissa asked what was wrong. He didn't answer. According to the report, he just shut the door slowly and said nothing. That was enough for me. The phone calls came next. The first one was from a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Travis. "Mom. I don't know what this is, but we got something delivered from the court. Is this you? Call me, please." I didn't call back. The next voicemail came 2 hours later. "This is crazy. You can't seriously be doing this. You're kicking me out of my own house." I listened, then deleted it. Melissa texted me the next morning. "We're your family. We just wanted what was best. Please don't throw everything away." I didn't respond. Instead, I called Monica. "Are we clear to enforce?" I asked. "Almost," she said. "I'm preparing the motion for summary judgment. They'll have 15 days to contest. If they don't respond or fail to show proof of legal occupancy, we go forward with removal." I knew they wouldn't respond, because Travis had nothing. He thought taking control meant having keys. But control isn't keys. It's documentation, and he never had that. I spent the next week staying in a quiet hotel Monica arranged for me. Nothing fancy, just clean, warm, and far from Melissa's voice and Travis's excuses. I used the time to plan, not just the legal process, but the next steps. I pulled out a small notebook I'd brought from storage. On the first page, I wrote, "Reclaim house shut, down access to all shared funds, redirect investments to personal name, only designate new beneficiary," because I wasn't going to put Travis back on anything. Not even if he cried at the court steps. Melissa was out the moment she helped him shut me out. And Travis lost his place the moment he left me at that station like a problem to be delayed. Monica called me on a Tuesday. "They didn't contest the filing," she said. "We've got approval for physical removal if they don't vacate within 10 days. I felt my stomach tighten. Not from nerves, from satisfaction. "Proceed," I said. "Also," she added, "they filed a motion yesterday trying to claim verbal transfer of ownership." I laughed. "Did they now?" It was tossed out immediately. Judge said, quote, "Property titles are not transferred via conversation." I hung up and took a walk that afternoon. Not because I needed exercise. I just wanted to feel the sidewalk beneath me. The same one I used to walk to church, to work, to the grocery store. That sidewalk carried me through a lot of life, and now it was carrying me back to my own name, my own keys, my own home. The one thing Travis never realized about betrayal is that it always comes with paperwork, and I had it all. It was the morning of the 10th day when Travis finally called again. This time, he didn't sound smug or irritated. He sounded tired. Mama, I know you're mad. I know I messed up. But you don't have to do this. You don't have to kick us out. I didn't answer right away. I just sat at the small table in my hotel room, staring out the window. The street below was quiet. Just a few cars moving slow. You put me out first, I said, calm. At a train station. No money. No coat thick enough for that wind. Now I'm just returning what you started. He went quiet. Then came the stammer. It wasn't like that. Melissa thought. I don't care what Melissa thought. I cut in. You're the one I raised. You're the one who took what wasn't his and thought I'd stay silent. He didn't try to argue again. That was the moment I knew something in him had shifted. Maybe not enough, but enough to feel it. I thought you'd be gone. Longer, he said, his voice low. We needed some time to get things sorted. You needed time to get me out of the way, I replied. Silence again. I hung up without saying goodbye. The sheriff arrived at 8:12 a.m. sharp. Monica met him at the property, wearing a black coat and flat shoes. She had copies of every document in a folder with my name labeled across the top. Hampton, Dolores, full reinstatement. I didn't go with them that morning. I stayed in the hotel and waited for the call. When it came, Monica's voice was clear and steady. They're gone, she said. Didn't say much. Just loaded 2 trash bags and some boxes into their SUV and left. He tried to say he still had rights. The officer corrected him. What about the furniture? I asked. They took a few things. Nothing structural. And nothing you can't replace. Melissa left the kitchen half-packed. There's a wine glass still on the counter. And the fridge is full of overpriced juices. I nodded to myself. Let it rot. I'll clean it myself. She hesitated. You want me to meet you at the house? Later? No, I said. I want to walk in alone. I waited until the evening. The sun had already started to dip when I got out of the cab in front of my house. I stood at the curb and looked at it. My house. The porch still needed repainting. The gutters sagged a little more than I remembered. But the roses I planted 5 years ago were still holding on by the side of the fence. The same ones Travis said he'd dig up to make room for a fire pit. The key in my hand felt heavier than I expected. I hadn't held it in weeks, but it was still mine. When I unlocked the front door and stepped inside, the smell hit first. Lavender. Melissa's favorite diffuser scent. The one that always gave me a headache. I opened all the windows. The house was too quiet, but not the kind of quiet that brings peace. It was the kind that sits heavy in the walls. I walked room to room slowly. In the living room, they'd moved my sofa to the garage and replaced it with some sectional I'd never seen before. There were wine stains on the rug, a pile of magazines about luxury vacations on the table. In the dining room, the chairs were mismatched now. Mine had been antique, carved by my father's hands. These were plastic and gold-painted. The master bedroom had been completely changed. Melissa's vanity was still there. Lights around the mirror. Open drawers full of powders and brushes. A silky robe still hung on the door. My bedspread was gone, replaced by something shiny and too white. I went back to the guest room, the one they'd shoved me into weeks before they sent me away. It still had the broken nightstand, the thin blanket, one outlet, no pictures on the walls. I sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't cry. I just sat there, letting it settle in. They tried to erase me from this place, but I was back. The next morning, I woke up in my house, not a hotel, not someone else's idea of temporary care. My house. The first thing I did was grab a trash bag and start in the kitchen. I tossed out Melissa's wellness teas, her meal prep containers, the unused stack of takeout menus she kept next to the microwave. I opened the fridge and cleaned every shelf, poured 3 unopened green juices down the sink, tossed some overpriced oat milk. Then I lit the cinnamon candle I always used during the holidays, the one she had thrown in a drawer because it didn't match the aesthetic. The smell settled into the house again, like it belonged. I moved to the living room, dragged the plastic furniture outside, posted it on a local free giveaway group. By noon, a college student came by and picked it up. "Your furniture?" he asked. "No, I replied, "but the house is mine." He didn't ask any more questions. I called a locksmith the next day, changed every lock, even the side gate. I didn't want any spare keys floating around. Monica helped me file the final notice of reinstatement with the Property Records Office. Now there was no confusion, no gray area. I was the sole legal occupant. I updated my will, too. Travis's name was removed entirely. Melissa's wasn't even a thought. I rewrote the entire estate plan with Monica and transferred primary beneficiary status to a new foundation, a women's fund that supported elderly mothers abandoned by their families. "You're sure about this?" Monica asked. "Absolutely," I said. "I want this money to help someone who'd never leave their mother at a train station." Travis called 2 days later. He didn't sound angry anymore. Just hollow. "Melissa left," he said. "She said she can't do this. Said I made promises I can't keep." I didn't say anything. She said I had nothing without you, that I was banking on you dying. Still, I stayed silent. I didn't mean for it to go this far, Mama. I just thought I could handle it all. I thought you'd understand we needed a fresh start. "I was your fresh start," I said. "You just wanted me out of the picture so you didn't have to remember that." He sighed. "I don't know where to go." I looked out the window at the roses, the same ones he almost tore out. "You'll figure it out," I said, "but not here." He started to say something else, but I ended the call. That night, I walked through every room and wiped down the surfaces, opened every drawer, made sure there was no trace of them left. When I got to the hallway, I stopped by the door frame where Travis's height marks were still etched from when he was 7, 10, 13. I didn't paint over them. Not because I wanted to remember him like that, but because I wanted to remember who I used to be, the mother who gave everything, the woman he thought would never fight back, and the person he underestimated, until the moment the locks clicked shut and he found himself on the other side of the door. The first weekend after the house was fully mine again, I didn't do much. I sat on the front porch with a glass of water and a notebook in my lap. Not writing, just thinking, letting myself feel the quiet without rushing to fill it. On Sunday morning, I finally called Tyler, my grandson. I hadn't spoken to him since everything unfolded. He was Melissa's son from a previous relationship, but I'd raised him more than she ever had. He answered on the second ring. "Grandma." "Hey, baby," I said. "Where are you? Mom said you went to some retreat. Dad said you were on vacation." I didn't say anything for a moment. Then I told him the truth. "They left me at the train station, Tyler. They emptied my account and tried to take everything." He went quiet. "Are you serious?" "I'm back home now. Legally. Permanently. But I wanted you to hear it from me, not from them." "Can I come over?" he asked immediately. "Of course," I said. "Whenever you want." He showed up an hour later with his backpack and a bag of chips. Tyler sat across from me at the kitchen table, staring at his hands. "I kinda knew something was off," he said. Mom and Dad wouldn't let me call you. They kept saying you needed rest. Rest doesn't come from being lied to, I told him. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry I didn't try harder. You were a kid caught in the middle, I said. That's not on you. He stayed for dinner that night. Macaroni and baked chicken. Nothing fancy. But he ate 3 servings. Then he asked quietly, Can I stay the weekend? You can stay as long as you need, I said. And he did. The next week I started working on the garden again. The rose bushes needed trimming. The soil was too dry. The pots Melissa had brought in were fake. Nothing but plastic leaves stuck in white ceramic. I replaced them with fresh herbs. Basil, thyme, and a little mint. Tyler helped. He dug the holes while I trimmed the dead leaves. You ever think about her getting a dog? He asked one morning. I looked up. A dog? Yeah, I mean now it's just you here. Wouldn't hurt to have some extra company. He had a point. Monica called 2 days later. She had just finalized the last transfer for the foundation I picked, the Hampton Fund. Everything's set, she said. You're listed as founder. Tyler's in the trust as beneficiary starting at age 25. And Travis? I asked. Excluded entirely. No contest clause active. If he tries to challenge it, he gets nothing. Not even a court. Hearing. Good. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. 3 days later, Melissa showed up. I was in the backyard watering the plants when I heard the gate open. She walked in like she still lived there. Dolores, she said, I just want to talk. I set the hose down and waited. You've made your point, she continued. You kicked us out. You got your house back. But Travis is falling apart. He lost his job. I had to move in with my sister. All of this. It didn't have to go this far. I didn't say anything. I mean, do you even realize what you've done? You destroyed your own son. I looked her in the eye. He left me on a train. Platform with $40. No return ticket. He locked me out of my own house. That's what destroyed him. He made a mistake, she said. No, I corrected. A mistake is forgetting to call. This was planned. She stood there for a long second. Then she looked down at the herbs, at the hose, still dripping slowly onto the dirt. This house used to feel warm, she said. It is again, I replied. She left without saying goodbye. I locked the gate behind her. That night, Tyler asked me if his mom was really gone for good. I don't know, I said. But she can't live here anymore. Dad keeps calling her, he said. He says she's blaming him for everything. She's right, I said. But that doesn't make her innocent. Tyler nodded. Then he looked at me seriously. I don't want to go back with them. I don't trust them. You don't have to, I said. You're safe here. And he was. The next morning, I went for a walk around the neighborhood. It was something I hadn't done in weeks. I passed by the small house 2 doors down, with the red mailbox and the overgrown yard. A for sale sign stood crooked in the lawn. I called Monica that afternoon. There's a property near me if I want to buy, I told her. Investment, she asked. No, I said. I want to control what goes on next door. Say no more, she replied. We closed in 10 days, all cash, no mortgage. I didn't move into the house, I kept it empty. Sometimes I sat on the porch swing there just to feel the space. I kept the lights on at night, watered the grass, trimmed the bushes. Tyler asked why I bought it if I wasn't going to live in it. Because peace is easier to keep when you own the land around it, I said. 2 weeks after Melissa visited, Travis knocked on my front door. He looked thinner, Unshaven, wearing the same jacket I'd bought him 5 Christmases ago. I opened the screen but didn't invite him in. He stood there with a folder in his hand. "I brought some documents," he said. "Stuff I thought you might need. Medical papers, copies of the car title. I didn't reach for them. I didn't come here to fight," he said. I want to know what I'm supposed to do now." I looked at him for a long time. "You're supposed to figure it out, like I had to." He swallowed hard. "I don't want to lose you completely." "You did," I said. His face twitched. His hands tightened on the folder. Can I at least come in and sit?" "No," I said. "You can go." He didn't argue, just nodded, stepped back, and left the folder on the porch rail. I watched him walk to his car. He didn't drive away fast. He just drove away. Later that evening, Tyler asked, "You think he really meant it?" "I think he regrets it," I said. "But that's not the same as meaning it." Tyler went quiet. Then he asked, "Can I stay for good?" "Yes," I said. "This is your home now." And it was. That night we sat on the porch together. One swing, one blanket, one quiet house. No yelling, no locks being changed, no lies hanging in the air. Just me and Tyler. And the empty house next door. Mine too. Because sometimes owning the silence is the only way to be heard. It was a Thursday morning when the envelope was delivered. I was in the kitchen washing dishes when I heard the mailbox clatter shut. I opened the front door and saw a thick manila envelope resting at the top of the steps. Hand-delivered. No stamp. The handwriting on the front said simply, "To Mrs. Dolores Hampton, confidential." I knew right away it was from Monica. Inside were 3 neatly clipped sets of documents, each marked with colored tabs. The top page had a sticky note in Monica's handwriting. "Final execution ready. Please review and sign. Call if you want to change anything." I sat at the table and went through every page, slowly, line by line. The first document was the updated version of my will. Everything laid out exactly as I'd asked. House to remain in the Hampton Family Trust. Primary beneficiary, Tyler Hampton. Secondary, Hampton Women's Fund. Travis's name was nowhere. The second document was the Trust Protection Clause. It ensured that no future legal action, no contest, no plea of undue influence, no claim of mental instability, could touch the assets. And the third document was the most satisfying. A formal letter of removal. To Travis Hampton, from Dolores. Hampton revocation of authorization. It was short, just a few sentences, but powerful, effective immediately. All prior permissions, verbal agreements, or implied rights were terminated. He couldn't speak for me, sign for me, access anything that had my name on it. He had no legal standing, no recourse, no control. Signed all 3 sets of documents, packaged them back into the envelope, walked them to the corner mailbox myself, and when I let go of that envelope, I didn't just feel relief. I felt finished. That weekend I got a message from Monica. "Documents received, filed and sealed. Everything is now enforceable. You're covered. Let me know if he tries anything." He did. 2 days later, Travis sent me an email. A long one, full of apologies, excuses, and that same passive-aggressive tone he always used when things didn't go his way. He wrote things like, "I never meant for any of this to spiral. I was under a lot of pressure. Melissa kept saying you didn't want to live alone anymore. You always talked about needing help. Then came the real reason. I just need a little support right now. just enough to get back on my feet. He attached a PDF with the title, Temporary Living Expenses Proposal. He was asking for $5,000, to be paid monthly, for 6 months. I didn't reply. Instead, I printed the email and placed it in a folder labeled Attempts. I wanted to remember how far he was willing to fall and still call it a reach. The next few days passed quietly. Tyler started school again. He took the bus from the corner like I used to when I was a girl. He kept his room clean, helped with dishes, mowed the lawn on Saturdays, and he stopped asking about his father. That part of the silence wasn't forced. It was chosen. One afternoon while we were folding laundry, he asked, "Do you think people can really change?" "Some do," I said. "Most don't." "Do you think Dad wants to?" "No," I answered. "I think he wants comfort, not change. They're not the same thing." Tyler didn't say anything after that, but he folded every towel perfectly and placed them back in the closet without being asked. That weekend, I had a locksmith come by again, not to change the locks. Those were already secure. I wanted to install cameras, not out of fear, out of preparation. The technician was a young woman named Asha, friendly, efficient. She worked quickly, installing 2 units on the front and 1 in the back. Tyler helped her sync the app to my phone. "Now you'll get a ping anytime someone gets close to the house," she said. "That's all I need," I told her. Later that night, I tested them myself, walked past the front step and waited. Within 3 seconds, the alert showed on my screen. Motion detected front door. It worked perfectly. A few days later, I got another alert. This time, it was 2:47 a.m. I sat up in bed, checked the screen. The footage showed a figure standing at the edge of the property. Couldn't see the face, but I knew the outline. Travis. He never stepped onto the lawn. Just stood there for a minute, then turned and walked away. The next morning, I told Monica. She said, "If he returns, let me know. We'll file a protective boundary order if needed." But I didn't need a court to keep him away. He knew. The house, the trust, the accounts, the future. It was all beyond his reach now. He didn't have the keys. He didn't have the documents. And, most of all, he didn't have my silence anymore. 1 week later, I received a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note. "I understand now. I'll stop asking. I just wanted to know if you ever loved me." No signature. But I recognized the handwriting. I didn't write back. I didn't need to. My answer had already been delivered. It was written in court filings, title transfers, revoked access, and a door that stayed shut no matter how many times he knocked. He had his answer. Now it was time for me to stop carrying the weight of his question, because I had already chosen who to give my heart to, and it wasn't the son who left me at the train station. It was the grandson who stayed. 3 months after I took my house back, things had settled into a routine. I woke up early every morning, made coffee, watered the garden, and watched Tyler leave for school with his backpack on and earbuds in. He always waved before the bus turned the corner. The quiet in the house was real now, not the tense, waiting kind that used to hang in the air when Melissa tiptoed around and Travis sulked in silence. This was the kind that let me breathe. One morning, after I finished cleaning out the hall closet, I found an old keyring tucked inside an envelope. There were 5 keys. 3 were mine, 2 were not. 1 belonged to Melissa. I remembered because it had the small pink tag on it, with the word spa scratched into the plastic. The other key had a metal label on it that said, Garage, Copy 2. I didn't want them in the house. I put the 2 keys in a sealed envelope and drove to the local donation center. I slipped the envelope into a bin marked scrap metal. They weren't going to be used again. Not here. Later that same week, I went to the courthouse to finalize the papers for Tyler's guardianship. Monica met me there with the forms in hand. He had asked me about it a few days earlier. Do I have to go back with Dad? No, I told him, but I want to make it official. He nodded. Okay, I want that too. So there we were, me in a beige cardigan, Monica in her usual blazer, and Tyler sitting next to me in his school hoodie. The clerk at the family services desk processed the papers quickly. You're all set, she said. Legal guardianship granted to Miss Hampton, effective immediately. Tyler looked up at me. He didn't say anything, but he reached over and grabbed my hand. That was enough. The next few weeks moved without interruption. I replaced the living room curtains, got the stove repaired, started baking again. Nothing fancy, just cornbread and banana bread for Tyler to take to school. He started leaving handwritten notes on the fridge. Thanks for lunch, Grandma. Or, see you after practice. One morning, I found a note that said, I'm glad I live here. I kept that one in the drawer next to my bed. Then came the call from Monica. Travis filed a request for financial mediation, she said. For what? I asked. Back support, she replied. He's claiming he contributed to household expenses for 5 years and wants reimbursement. I didn't get angry. I laughed. He drained my accounts, left me on a train platform, kicked me out of my own house. Monica already had the response drafted. We're filing a full financial audit from the last 7 years. All traceable, all documented. Once the court sees the statements, they'll shut it down. I paused. Do it. And don't send him a warning first. Let the envelope speak for itself. It did. The case was dismissed 3 weeks later with prejudice. Travis didn't even show up. Monica sent me the court order in the mail. I read it once, folded it neatly, and slid it into my binder under a new tab I labeled Closure. One morning in mid-March, I got another letter. This one was addressed in careful handwriting. No name on the return address, just the street number. Inside was a note. Tyler is safer with you. I'm not proud of how things ended. I hope one day you'll tell him I said that. It wasn't signed, but I knew it was from Melissa. I thought about it for a few days. Then, during dinner one night, I asked Tyler if he wanted to hear from her. He shrugged. I'm good where I am. So I didn't show him the letter, not out of spite, but because he didn't need her guilt clouding his peace, and neither did I. Around that same time, something unexpected happened. A woman named Cassandra stopped by. She was the daughter of my old friend Diane from the church choir. Diane had passed the year before, and Cassandra was cleaning out her mother's files when she found a small folder marked, For Dolores, Confidential. Inside was a notarized letter from 2002, signed by Diane and her husband. It said they wanted to leave part of their small lake property to me, 1 acre on the south edge, plus access rights. I hadn't known. They never told me. Cassandra said, My mom said you were the only person who showed up after her surgery. You brought her soup and changed her sheets. She said that kind of kindness deserved land. It was quiet between us for a moment. Then she smiled. I'm just here to make sure it's yours now. I accepted the papers, signed the transfer, and promised to take care of it. A week later, Tyler and I drove out to see the land. It was simple. Some trees, a small clearing, no buildings, no roads, just soil, grass, and peace. Tyler walked ahead of me with a stick, drawing lines in the dirt. "What are you going to do with it?" he asked. "Nothing for now," I said. "It's enough that it's mine." He nodded like he understood. Because he did. Back home, I made one final change. I sat at the kitchen table and wrote a letter of my own. I sealed it in an envelope marked, "To be opened by Tyler Hampton after my passing." Inside, I explained everything: the house, the trust, the reasons, the mistakes, the protections. And then I ended it with one sentence: "Everything I have is yours, because you stayed when others walked away." I placed the envelope in the lockbox at the bank. Then I walked home. Not just to a house, but to a life I rebuilt brick by brick, without apology, without performance, and without asking anyone for permission. Because in the end, the one thing Travis never understood was that silence is not weakness. Sometimes it's just the sound of someone reclaiming their power.